Occasionally when new IPs are introduced in video games, they change the media landscape around them. They're so influential and well received by both the public and critics that new installments and trilogy finales become more aptly described as an event. Halo was at its time the biggest first-person shooter on the market. Call of Duty was a few years from its pinnacle, Minecraft wasn't even a spark in someone's eye, whilst Master Chief was spearheading the charge for Xbox's killer IP and driving gamers wild. It's been said before, but the Believe trailer released in the lead up to the release of the game really is a nice time capsule of how much this game meant to fans of the series. So many pieces were set in motion. Cortana was trapped in High Charity, which in turn is under the control of the Gravemind. The Covenant have fired a Halo ring and are now plotting to find the mysterious Ark to bring about their great journey. The elites are in open rebellion against the Covenant, and the Arbiter must seek vengeance against the Prophet of Truth. And most vocal of all, Master Chief has to finish the fight. Now, one thing you'll notice if you've watched my last videos on the Halo games is that this is the worst looking one of them all right now. Well, both Halo 1 and 2 had remasters done called Anniversaries on the 10th anniversary of their release dates. However, for some reason or another, Halo 3 has been left out of the loop in this regard, which is a bit of a shame. However, even with that said, the game doesn't look too shabby, at least if you don't look too closely at the character models. But anyways, Master Chief, when we last saw him, had stowed away on the Prophet of Truth's Forerunner ship before it launched from High Charity. The game begins with Cortana monologuing about why she even picked Master Chief in the first place as her companion on her journey. The reason being, luck. For some reason or another, Master Chief falls from the ship and crashes onto the Earth, the first setting for Halo 3. Johnson finds his old sparring partner with a squad of Marines and realizes that 1. Cortana is missing, and 2. the Master Chief may be dead from the impact. Luckily that's not the case, the Chief pulls a fast one on the Marines and gets up relatively unharmed if a little fatigued. After a small chat, an invisible threat begins to materialize. Turns out the Arbiter is also along for the ride, and Master Chief shows very clearly that he is still wary of his newly revealed ally. Now I've got to be honest, I don't like the first few levels of Halo 3, but let me explain why. So it's no secret that usually the first level of a Halo game is a dull looking corridor shooter segment. Yes, there's technically some cool stuff outside in space to look at, especially in Halo 2, but other than that it helps the players appreciate the more open and luscious environments later in the games. But Halo 3 starts in a forest, all Predator style, except the invisible alien guy is your friend and the Marines are being hunted by giant apes. There are human structures around which are all broken down and grimy, plus there's a dam section where you need to save Sergeant Johnson further into the level, but it just feels unengaging. There are some nice moments, such as when you can optionally save some Marines being terrorized by the brutes, but other than that I never really found much interesting about the design or the objectives. Level 2 is in a kind of boring underground base which has no outside areas and is predominantly filled with crates and corridors. Level 3 is a big highway, which does showcase the brute chopper vehicles to great effect, but it's still just a kinda bland, concrete-laden battle zone which could be replicated in other shooters. Level 4 is also just a seaside base, but it does have a standout moment where you fight a Scarab tank using the new Mongoose vehicle with a rocket gunner. Plus 5 is a retread of Level 4's area, where the Flood make their brief invasion attempt. Either way, the game spends a lot of its time on Earth. 5 out of 9 levels to be exact, and I understand it's somewhat needed to be this way to impress upon the players that this is your final stand for humanity. 2 levels are on the immeasurably more fantastical Ark facility, a single level is devoted to infiltrating the flood-infested High Charity, and the last level put us in a very familiar place, which I'll mention later. As such, this game probably has much of the weakest environments in the series. Lots of corridors, metallic structures, and not too many impressive vistas, lakes, ruins, or alien structures. Plus, without the elites at the vanguard of the Covenant army and the brute chieftain Tartarus gone, we only really have 2 primary antagonists, Truth and the Gravemind. That said, clearing the path to them, we get some returning and new additions to our arsenal. First of all, the assault rifle's back. Yay! The Magnum's been beefed up again. Yay! The brutes have new weapons such as the Spiker and Mauler pistols. The Needler's been given a boost despite no longer being dual wieldable. Turrets can now be dismantled and carry around for a massive boost in firepower. There's a bloody flamethrower, flame grenades, spike grenades, and to top it all off we get the Spartan laser. Grunts now charge at you in a suicidal rage, Brutes now have armor which breaks with continued stress, the Flood now have a creepy new transformation form, and although the additions aren't as numerous as Halo's last installment, there was already plenty for players to sink their teeth into. This game also introduces equipment such as the bubble shield, the energy drain, and other weapons that you just sort of pick up and use on the fly. To be honest, I think this is a bit too much of a gimmick, and again, I don't really like this much, because they really don't need to be in the game to make it good. Plus, like every game in the series by Bungie, the scale is intensified further than its predecessor. There are massive battles where your UNSC pals chip in with both infantry firepower, tanks, and other vehicles. Especially in the levels on the second half of the game, in particular the Ark levels, there are very dramatic firefights and battles. Though there are also many more intimate moments. Very early on in the game we keep seeing glitchy flashes of Cortana, and we're unsure if these are just hallucinations, messages, or even memories from the Chief. As we progress in the game, we work with the elites to not only target the Prophet of Truth's fleet, but soon after the intervention of the Flood crash landing onto the Earth, we come to realize that Cortana might be on the crashed ship. We actually find out it's a message left by Cortana, and as the elite shipmaster commands his fleet to bombard or glass the Flood crash site, tensions between the UNSC and elites begin to escalate, with Johnson and the Arbiter doing their best to ease tensions. Miranda takes a more proactive approach into her involvement in the conflict, especially as Johnson gets abducted by the Prophet of Truth. Truth gets very close to achieving his great journey, and even the Flood momentarily form an alliance with the Chief and Arbiter to end his madness. Miranda attempts to rescue Johnson, and is killed by Truth. The Arbiter achieves his vengeance against the Prophet, only for the Flood to turn on us as he dies. With the Covenant removed from the conflict in that moment, the Chief resumes his mission to infiltrate the Gravemind's tomb, and eventually rescue Cortana from the parasite. And then the last level begins, and it's familiar. During the Ark's first main mission, we discover that the old Installation 04 Halo ring we destroyed at the start of our journey is being rebuilt, and as such we endeavour to destroy it again, and thus destroying the Ark and even the Flood by firing the ring. We return to the level Assault on the Control Room from Halo 1. The architecture is just like the original. It's even snowing. Kinda reminds me of another game. Anyways, as we fight our way to the top of the structure with the aid of Sergeant Johnson, the Arbiter, and Guilty Spark, we fend off the Flood. Johnson is given the task with Cortana of activating the firing mechanism, and is told by Spark that they cannot fire the ring until it is complete, or else the ring itself will collapse. As Johnson voices his apathy, the Monitor retaliates. The Arbiter is sealed outside whilst Master Chief fights his final opponent. It becomes clear very quickly that we can't harm the machine. We hopelessly unload magazine after magazine into its shields, and hopelessly buy time for a miracle. And as is his charm, Johnson delivers it. After being told by Johnson to kick his ass, we fire upon the Monitor, destroying it completely and ending its insane ploy. Johnson lays on the ground dying, and in his final moments hands us Cortana and tells the Chief to send him out with a bang. It's really the moment where the last spark of the UNSC forces, the heart of it, dies. However, there's no time to delay, even for a brother-in-arms. Chief and the Arbiter leave the facility as the firing mechanism begins, and we have to race to a ship to escape the blast. We take Johnson's Warthog, and reminiscent of the first game, race through an exploding set piece to get to the distant ship, forward onto Dawn. As we launch into the hangar, the Arbiter races to the cockpit, whilst Cortana takes control of the ship. The Chief slips, manages to clamber up to safety, and is engulfed in the blast. We find out that the ship is split into two. The Arbiter's half crashes onto land, eventually being rescued by the UNSC. At a memorial dedicated to those lost to the fires of war, Admiral Hood presides over the ceremony. Lord Hood tells the Arbiter that he cannot forgive him for what his kind has done to humanity, but thanks him for being with John for his last moments. They shake hands by the monument adorned with photographs of fallen heroes, the number 117 etched onto its side. Of course, this isn't the end of Master Chief. As the Chief finds his way to a cryopod, Cortana explains that they are deep in space with no means of transport or contacting their allies. Adrift in space, Cortana says her goodbyes, whilst John gets some rest before the next mission. Halo 3 rounds off a truly amazing trilogy of games, one which no one has been able to replicate in scale or in tone. For me, Halo was an amazing game to grow up with. Great role models, great stories, amazing set pieces and action. Halo had it all. And although we can never be sure exactly where the Halo franchise is going from here, at least we can always bank on the fact that we have an exceptional trilogy. We can always retread the journey which made us fans of this series. And as the story concludes, the Chief reminds us,
Truth and the Covenant, the Flood, it's finished.
It's finished.
I'll miss you.
Wake me when you need me.